I am Coach Jaki, and in this video, I will share some guidelines as to how to manage a mentoring relationship. In this video, I am sharing general guidelines for a generic mentoring relationship, by which I mean a situation where you have maybe a more experienced or an older person guiding a younger or less experienced person, so that that younger person can achieve certain results. I am aware that in different professions there are different mentoring methodologies or perhaps slightly different definitions of mentoring. So I just want to highlight that this is a very generic guideline to help you understand how you can start a mentoring relationship, maintain the mentoring relationship, and close it out when the mentee has achieved their objectives. So as I said, there are a number of stages in the mentoring relationship. I will cover the preparation, which is before you start the mentoring relationship. And then I will talk about engagement and enablement, which is the middle part of the relationship. This is where the conversations happen. This is where the mentee takes certain actions and observes growth, hopefully. And then I will talk about how to close a formal mentoring relationship. So before you meet, I want to invite you to reflect on what your motivation is. As a mentor, why have you decided to become a mentor? Perhaps you would like to gain experience as a mentor. Perhaps you're hoping to achieve some continuous professional development points. Perhaps you just want to, help the world at large. Whatever your motivation is, I would like to invite you to reflect on it before you enter into a mentoring relationship. Likewise, for the mentee, what's your motivation? What do you want to get out of this relationship? As far as possible, it would help if the mentors and the mentees exchanged information about themselves before the first meeting. Such information would normally be covered in a CV or a resume, or if perhaps LinkedIn profiles exist, exchanging the information in those profiles is probably sufficient as background information. At the very first meeting, it would be a good idea to talk about any past mentoring experiences, whether it is from the mentor's point of view or from the mentee's point of view. Share what worked and what didn't work. If you don't have any experience being a mentee or a mentor, it is also important to talk about personal assumptions and limitations. What do you know about a mentoring relationship? What are you expecting from this mentoring relationship? What are the boundaries, And for the mentee, it is especially important to identify or articulate what goals you have for yourself. What are your learning and development goals? And what are your personal expectations of the relationship? At this meeting, define deliverables and desired outcomes. And also talk about, the mentee's preferred learning styles, preferred communication methods, including things like what language would you like to use? Are there any issues around timing of engagements or meetings? So do you want to be on a WhatsApp group together? Do you want to be meeting virtually? Do you want to be meeting one-on-one? Is the mentee at liberty to make ad hoc phone calls? Do they have to make appointments? Setting these ground rules is going to be useful to help you have a smooth relationship in the mentoring engagement. So there are a few mentoring principles that I think are important to highlight. The first one is that a good mentoring relationship provides mutual benefits. As I said, the mentor might be able to log hours for continuous professional development, while the mentee gains knowledge, skills, and personal growth from the relationship. Confidentiality should govern all the conversations and the engagement between the mentor and the mentee. It is important to be honest in the relationship. So are you struggling with certain actions that you promised to do? Are you falling behind on certain things? Do you not have access to the networks that you thought you might have access to? Are you really able to make that introduction or not? Honesty is going to help you develop a relationship of trust between mentor and mentee. Listening and learning are core principles of the mentoring relationship, and it is a two-way thing. So it is important for the mentor to listen to the mentee, to understand what the mentee would like to get out of the relationship, or what the mentee is not saying. So it is listening both with your ears, but also with your intuition and with your eyes, but also just being open to learning, not having a fixed mindset about maybe how things should be or how things should be done. Remember that the relationship is a working relationship, and both of you are expected to put in some effort, even if it is just the effort of meeting on a regular basis. Lead by example. If you're a mentor, lead by example in terms of maybe timekeeping, honoring your promises, and the mentee likewise should lead by example, because reverse mentoring also happens during these relationships. And I would like to encourage flexibility in these relationships, so things are not only done one way. The second stage of the mentoring relationship is the engagement, and it is here that you now begin the actual work of mentoring. At the first meeting, the mentee should have expressed what their expectations are, what their goals are, and during the engagement sessions, it's important to clarify those goals, to clarify specifically what the mentee wants. So be specific in terms of stating any goals that the mentee has. What do you really want to do? And how are you going to measure progress? Yeah, specify these things in measurable terms. Naturally, the goals need to be appropriate and they need to be achievable. So we are looking at this SMART acronym. Is the goal really achievable and appropriate? Is the goal realistic? Is it relevant? Sometimes we go too far when we are setting goals, and then we get disappointed. Or sometimes we set goals that are too easy, and then we don't really grow from the relationship. And it is actually better to do things in smaller steps than be disappointed when expectations are set too high. So look for realistic and reachable or relevant goals. And finally, have timelines. Specify the timelines within which you want to achieve those goals. I do not, in this case, I am advocating for a mentoring relationship that has a timeline. So whether it's going to be over a period of 6 months or 1 year, I do recognize that many times mentors and mentees maintain a relationship for life. But in this case, I'm talking about a structured relationship within a certain period of time, and within which time certain goals will be worked on. Agree on how much time you want to commit to the relationship on a regular basis. So would you like to meet for an hour every week, for half an hour, 3 times a week, for 2 hours once a month? And how would you like your meetings to go? Do you want a formal type of relationship where you have a formal agenda, or you have a topic-driven agenda? Are you going to be having some check-in conversations? In that case, who initiates the calls? How are you going to stay focused, and how are you going to monitor progress? How will you capture follow-up items? And as I said at the beginning, set the ground rules. So are you happy to be called as a mentor at any time, or would you prefer that your mentee calls at certain times on certain days? Would you like them to make an appointment in your diary? Agree on how you're going to evaluate progress. What are the milestones? And I think it's also good to have an idea, or to talk about what will constitute success when the relationship ends. The third part of the relationship really involves, all the things that the mentor empowers the mentee to do. So this is really active mentoring. So the regular check-ins, as I have mentioned, the listening and advising, asking for and giving feedback. It's important for the mentor to stop every now and then to find out from the mentee, is this going the way you expected it to go? Is it going the way you would like it to go? And then providing the timely support, whether it's in creating appropriate challenges, whether it is in connecting the mentee with certain people or certain opportunities, whether it is providing certain materials for the mentee to read, linking the mentee with opportunities for growth, maybe, or even perhaps soliciting for feedback from the mentee. So maybe the mentor facilitated an opportunity for the mentee to go for an internship, just as an example. during this stage, it is important for the mentor also to ask for feedback from the place where the mentee was interning, and then sharing that feedback or the insights from that feedback with the mentee. And of course, just a regular evaluation of progress and supporting review of actions. In the course of the relationship, the mentor will rely on questions in order to identify different things, to gain information, or to challenge the mentee to make some discoveries. So there are 3 types of questions that I would just very quickly like to highlight here. The first one is investigative questions. These are questions that allow you to gain information. So for example, what have you accomplished so far? And what happened? These are investigative questions. A second type of question is discovery questions. And when I say discovery, it is in relation to the mentee. So questions that allow the mentee to make discoveries. For example, what did you learn from this? What are your ideas? What 3 things would you consider in making a decision on that? Or give me 2 alternative ways of thinking about this. What else could you have done? What is most important to you? So the discovery questions are very important, because this is where the mentee really makes the effort to learn and grow. Much as the mentor is more experienced and probably has answers to a lot of the issues that the mentee is facing, discovery questions allow the mentee to think for themselves and to come to conclusions for themselves, thus coming up with more enduring solutions to the challenges that they are facing. And the third type of question is empowering questions. So these are questions that really help the mentee to feel that they can do it, and to think about the results of what they are doing. So for example, what outcome are you looking for? What will you do first? What must you do to make that happen? Or who else needs to know this? What resources do you have, or what resources do you need? What is the risk in doing this or not doing this? And how might you get in your own way? So these are questions that really allow or help the mentee to see what they can actually do, to get them into action mode, to feel empowered to go ahead and do the things that they need to do in order to achieve the results that they are looking for. As I suggested earlier, you need to agree on how you're going to track progress and follow up. So this is an example of a tool that you can use. You could have the mentee, have a notebook in which they note down any ideas or tasks that they need to follow up on, what is the due date, and who is involved. And for you as a mentor as well, to keep track of any tasks for follow-up and any deadlines and any other person who might be involved in the task. But I would also like mentors to encourage mentees to maintain a journal over the duration of the mentorship relationship, and they could use the 3-2-1 method, which is just an example of a method that they could use. So what 3 things did the mentee learn during that encounter? What 2 actions are they going to do, or what 2 changes are they going to make? And what's one thing they will never forget? So this is just an example of a format of a journal, but obviously the mentee can also journal in whichever way they want. But what I would like to encourage is that the mentees don't just record what happened. So it's not a chronicle of events, but rather reflect on what they learned, what they observed, what they felt as a result of the conversations that they had with their mentor on any particular day. Finally, as I said, mentorship relationships often have come to an end if it's a structured relationship. So how do you close the formal part of the relationship? I would like to encourage you to find a personal way to express your feelings about the experience if you're as a mentor, and to encourage your mentee to do the same. And even if there is disappointment in the outcome, identify and express the positive benefits you observed in the mentoring relationship. Review what was learned and identify what might need to happen differently in another mentoring relationship. Finally, I would like to encourage you to celebrate in one way or another the end of that formal part of the mentorship relationship. But as I said, many mentors and mentees retain a relationship for life, What might change is that you cease to have the regular check-ins and the formal aspects of the relationship. So the fact that you have come to the end of the 6 months or 9 months or 3 months or whatever period it was that you agreed on at the beginning does not mean that the relationship has to end. If you would like any further reading, or if you would like to consult some of the references that I used in preparing this presentation, I have them on the screen over here, so you can just read up on them and gain some additional information.